Today, we are going to completely dismantle the biggest lie you've ever been told about success. We're skipping the basic, generic financial advice and going straight for the jugular. We are looking directly at the neurological blueprint actually utilized by the top 1%. We'll be pulling deep insights from Napoleon Hill's legendary research into the most powerful minds in history, but we're going to translate those findings into actionable, modern neuroscience.
So think about it. What is the absolute greatest lie you've been fed about wealth? Well, since childhood, society has practically drilled this simple, convenient narrative into our heads. Just work hard, and one day you'll be rich. But, look around. Millions of people work themselves to the bone every single day, right? They sacrifice their sleep, their health, their sanity, all just to win some Employee of the Month parking spot. Yet, they stay completely trapped in the financial struggles of the 99%, just barely surviving paycheck to paycheck. So why exactly do 90% of the world's riches sit in the hands of just 1% of the people? Do they literally work 100 times harder than you? Absolutely not. No way. They just possess a ruthless psychological weapon that traditional schools simply never teach us.
The masses basically operate on what we call the 99% illusion. It's like they're sitting in a giant waiting room just hoping for luck to strike, or waiting around for a miracle to happen. But the 1% reality? It is entirely different. Way back in 1908, Andrew Carnegie commissioned a journalist named Napoleon Hill to spend 25 years studying over 500 of the world's most powerful empire-building minds. We're talking titans like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. And what Hill found wasn't some kind of magic, and it definitely wasn't childhood luck. It was a calculated, ruthless psychological advantage and a deliberate habit of subconscious reprogramming.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, Igniting a Burning Desire.
Listen, passive wishes are entirely useless. Just wanting to be rich, that's not a strategy. Elite performers take those passive desires and transform them into a ruthless, survival-driven obsession. Let's look back to the year 1519. Hernán Cortés landed on the shores of Mexico with a really small, terrified army, and they were facing a massive, powerful empire. His men were panicked. They wanted to retreat. So what did Cortés do? He gave the legendary order to literally burn their own boats. Just imagine standing on that shore, watching your only way home turn to ash. He completely eliminated their safety net. You see, when failure is literally no longer an option, human creativity and willpower reach their absolute peak. This is where you harness what Hill famously called the mystery of sex transmutation. It's about taking your most raw, primal creative energy and channeling it entirely into a singular, professional drive. It becomes a biological necessity. Make no mistake, your plan B is the biggest enemy of your plan A, purely because it gives you a false, cozy sense of security and mediocrity. 10,000. Think about that number. That is the number of times Thomas Edison's plans failed while he was trying to invent the light bulb. If he had an average, everyday mindset, he probably would have quit at attempt number 99. But for a truly obsessed mind, failure is completely reframed. Edison didn't see 10,000 failures. He saw 10,000 pieces of highly valuable data showing him exactly how not to make a light bulb. Elite minds use pain and failure as a filter. It's a mechanism that just naturally eliminates the weak competition, leaving behind only the data you actually need to reach your goal.
So how do you actually turn this abstract obsession into a physical reality? Well, it's a concrete, scientific, 6-step blueprint. Step 1, fix the exact amount of money you want. Saying, "I want to be rich," is a wish. It is not a target. Step 2, determine exactly what you are willing to sacrifice for it. Your sleep, your ego, your comfort. Step 3, set a firm, non-negotiable deadline. Step 4, create a definite plan and execute it immediately, regardless of whether you feel ready or not. Step 5, write this all down, treat it like a binding contract. And Step 6, read it aloud twice a day with absolute emotional intensity. Burn these steps into your brain because this is your ultimate roadmap.
Moving on to Section 2, Reprogramming your subconscious mind.
Now that we actually have the blueprint, let's take a look at the biological engine that executes it. Honestly, it is kind of terrifying how little conscious control you actually have over your own life. Your conscious mind, the part of you that's paying attention and setting goals right now, only controls about 5% of what you do. The other 95%, that is your subconscious mind. And right now, for the vast majority of people, that 95% has been heavily programmed by society, by well-meaning parents, and by teachers to prioritize fear, mediocrity, and playing it safe. If you don't actively take the steering wheel of that 95%, society is going to drive you straight into a perfectly average life.
So, the big question is, how do we take the wheel? We do it through autosuggestion. This is the act of deliberately feeding your subconscious mind very specific instructions and pairing them with intense emotion. When you read your goals aloud every single day with genuine, burning feeling, you are commanding your brain's Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. When your RAS is primed like that, it starts acting like a highly tuned radar. It suddenly starts scanning the world for invisible opportunities, hidden resources, and the right people that perfectly align with your new wealthy identity.
Let me give you a crazy example. Back in the early 90s, a totally broke, struggling actor named Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for exactly $10 million for acting services rendered. He dated it for Thanksgiving, 1995, and he literally kept it in his wallet. He visualized it, he truly felt the emotion of already having that money, and he programmed his subconscious to believe it was a done deal. And guess what? Right around Thanksgiving, 1995, he landed his iconic role in Dumb and Dumber for, you guessed it, exactly $10 million. He didn't just work hard, he meticulously engineered his brain to manifest a very specific physical reality.
Okay, Section 3, Specialized Knowledge and the Mastermind.
It's time we expose the huge delusion of the traditional education system. We are constantly told that formal degrees bring wealth, but think about it. If that were actually true, the world's most highly educated academics would be the richest people on Earth, and they just aren't. General knowledge, the stuff you get from standard college degrees, has a massive supply. It turns you into a replaceable commodity. It creates employees. But specialized knowledge, that is rare. It solves very specific, high-value problems, and it creates monopolies. Having a degree is really just having raw potential. It's essentially a pile of unlaid bricks. Specialized knowledge, when paired with a definite plan, is the master architect that actually builds those bricks into an empire.
And here's the secret. You really don't need to know everything to succeed. When Henry Ford famously demanded that his engineers build the V8 engine, his top experts literally told him it was scientifically impossible. Ford, who by the way had very little formal education himself, just looked at them and replied, "It is possible, now go back and make it possible." He didn't know the complex technical how. Elite leaders don't need to know how to tighten every single bolt. They just need absolute faith, specialized knowledge of what they ultimately want, and the right team around them to execute it.
Let's be real, the whole idea of the self-made billionaire is a complete myth. Absolutely no empire is built alone. This is where the mastermind comes in. It's the flawless coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people who are working together toward a definite purpose. When you bring brilliant, specialized minds together in harmony, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals 11. It creates this formidable, almost invisible third force. True leaders always surround themselves with experts who know all the things they don't. Next up, Section 4, Organized Planning and Execution.
There is this massive, modern myth floating around that visualization alone is enough to bring you wealth. It absolutely is not. Without a ruthless, organized plan, even the most brilliant idea is totally worthless. Consider the McDonald brothers. They had the genius idea, they had the perfect product, and they even perfected the speedy service system. Yet, at the end of the day, they were really just running a very successful local restaurant. Enter Ray Kroc. Ray didn't invent the burger, and he didn't invent the system. The guy was literally a milkshake machine salesman, but Ray Kroc had the master organized plan. He envisioned a sprawling, global real estate and franchise empire. The brothers had the product, sure, but Ray Kroc had the execution architecture. And as we see time and time again, history always rewards the system over the product.
Now, organized planning is as much about what you destroy as what you create. Back in 1997, Apple was literally 90 days away from going totally bankrupt. Steve Jobs returned to the company, but he didn't stand up and give some magical, warm and fuzzy motivational speech. No, he executed a ruthless plan. He walked straight to a whiteboard, drew a simple grid, and instantly killed off 70% of their entire product line. He focused the entire company's survival on just 4 core items. That kind of surgical, incredibly painful execution is exactly what saved the company and built the trillion-dollar empire we know today.
Finally, Section 5, Decisions and Unbreakable Persistence.
We've arrived at the final 2 traits that really separate the 1% from the masses: the lightning speed of their choices and their extreme tolerance for pain. The actual word decision comes from the Latin word decidere, which literally translates to cut off. To make a true decision, you have to outwit what Napoleon Hill called the 6 ghosts of fear, things like the paralyzing fear of poverty or the fear of criticism.
Analysis paralysis? That is just fear in a clever disguise. It killed absolute giants like Kodak. Think about it. Kodak actually invented the digital camera, but they spent years debating whether to launch it because they were terrified of hurting their existing film business. While they sat around waiting for the perfect time, the market entirely moved on without them, and they went bankrupt. Procrastination is just a mask for the fear of making a real decision. Conversely, look at someone like Mark Zuckerberg. In 2012, he noticed a massive shift toward mobile usage, and he saw this tiny, zero-revenue app with just 13 employees, called Instagram, as a genuine threat. Instead of launching into months of slow corporate analysis and endless legal meetings, Zuckerberg just called the founder up over a weekend and made a staggering $1 billion decision almost instantly. Elite decision-makers prioritize speed over absolute certainty. They make a choice rapidly, and then they use their relentless execution to make sure that choice was the right one.
5,126. That is precisely how many failed vacuum prototypes James Dyson built over 15 grueling years. He emptied his life savings, he faced massive rejection, and he had those ghosts of fear screaming at him every single day to just quit. But he reframed that painful valley of despair. He understood that pain is just a biological filter designed to eliminate the weak competition. Every single failure was just one more necessary step toward that flawless 5,127th prototype, the one that eventually made him a multi-billionaire. So I want to leave you with this really piercing question. Have you burned your boats yet? Or are you still standing safely on the shore, fiercely protecting your comfortable little plan B? The greatest thinkers and wealth builders in human history did not rely on luck. They reprogrammed their subconscious minds, they acquired hyper-specialized knowledge, they formed powerful mastermind alliances, they executed their plans ruthlessly, and they picked up the surgeon scalpel to cut off all avenues of retreat. It is time to cut ties with your mediocre past. The blueprint is right here in front of you. The only question is, will you actually start executing it today? Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and we will see you next time.